the aggressive approach. Of course, it's not all situations that I agree, but to take this route, if you want to transform society, you need to take this approach. Now, it's important. Get female mentors for men and expose them to female leaders who champion gender inclusion. All the time they say, oh, mentor, then they are giving men, even for all the women. Let me see, how many women here are mentoring men? Let me see by hand. Only Dr. Ofeuku is mentoring men. How many, you see? Yes, and Dr. Ray Dudanso. Please, how many are you mentoring? One. Okay. Please, let us consciously force them. You come. You, this lecturer, come, I want to mentor you. Whether they like it or not, women have the intellectual power and energy to mentor. And so when we talk about mentorship, we shouldn't look at it in the direction of only men, mentoring women and men. A deviant approach is to ensure that there are more women mentoring men than women mentoring women. If you like, we can exchange. Let the men mentor the women and let the women mentor the men. Then they will understand how it is. But that is a way of transforming society. Now, with the coming of COVID, most of us have been home. And you understand why being home sent us back to the conviction that women are natural leaders. And if you're a leader, you mentor. So let's get more. And don't be afraid if you're a leader and you are being asked to assign mentees. Please, consciously assign the men to the women. If you're a dean or HOD and you assign, in fact, you see some of the men will not do, but I'm telling those of you here listening, that if you are assigning mentees intentionally, consciously, give them to the women. And then let's see what happens. Some men will be humble enough to be mentored by women. Others will resist. Then you leave them on their own. Don't take them and give them to men. You have to cleanse them of gender biases. Invite men to participate in gender discussions and initiatives. I'm so glad now that there are so many men here. Please let me see that by hands. Men who are gender advocates who are here. All the men, please let me see your hand. Great, great. Please clap for them. Thank you for coming. Invite more. Intentionally invite them. Don't put it on social media to think that they will come. Call them and invite them. Eva, where is Eva? Call them. Don't talk to you. Put them on the women gender platform. Where are the women? Because you need the men. Invite them to all discussions. Do a one-on-one invitation. Don't put it on social media. Don't put it on gender platform and leave the women that is for women. No, we have passed that stage. Listen, men have power. They control society. You need them as allies. If you don't take them as allies, you don't invite them on board, the task of transforming society and making it inclusive and gender balance will be so challenging that those of us who are trying to support would also be marginalized. So bring them, because when they come to discussion, then they begin to think critically about issues, and then they begin to transform their own ideas. And men will go back and transform society. So subvert domestic gender roles and act masculine to liberate yourself and other women. You see, in the house or in the home, everything is for women. So the kitchen is the woman's office. So they say. And from that office, the men get to leave. They leave from that office. They have the energy. Now, let us make sure that those roles are subverted so that men are encouraged to cook and to do laundry. And all the things that they say they won't do. Because I can't come and stand here when I am not an example of men. For me, in my house, I have daughters, 23, 21, and then I'm gate crasher, who is about 6 years, 7 years. Oh, please, don't go there. When I've not asked you to go, don't go. The one who is, hey, that guy is deciding how far I should move. You see, and when I get up and I go and make my breakfast, I'm not waiting for them. And she's sleeping. She's sleeping like a man. You know, men will sleep, they will never wake up. And I'll get up and go and make my breakfast, take everything, do things, and I'm gone. Because I am not going to wait for somebody to babysit me. I'll do things on my own, so I can cook all recipes and menu. I do my own laundries, I iron my stuff, and I have 2 big girls in the house. And sometimes when you are doing so, let me do it. One day you fly away, and then I'll be left alone. And then I say I'm a man, so I have to go and ask somebody to come and do those things. The point is that men don't understand that when they help women and they free women from the prison, they become freer. I've said this again and again. When women are free, men are freer. Because if your wife is working and is earning money like you are earning, and you have agreed that, we share the resources together and you are not hiding your income, if you can't pay the school fees, she'll pay the school fees. She'll prepare the meals. And when you come home, you also go to the kitchen and you make the meal ready. You see, women learn from men. And let me tell you one interesting that happened. You see, when a man is married and he's working and he's doing all the big masculine stuff, he goes to work and come, he say, okay, I'm Hartwell. I'll put the money on the bed. I'll put the chalk money on the table. Take it. All right, thank you. And then she takes the money all the time. Then one day, the man loses his job. And then it's only the woman who is working. You didn't support her to do some big things. So she's working. She goes out. Because when you are going to work, she also do everything. She the security, everything in the home. And then she goes away. Then you are putting the money on the bed, on the table, on the center table, dining table, everywhere. For people to see that you are a man, you are giving job money. You lose your job. And then, what happens? The woman comes in and she's working. Then, she's also starting the same thing. Kwesi, I'll put the money on the table. Take it and go and buy this. I'll put it on the bed. Then say, you don't respect. This woman, that is, look at how she's treating me. She has learned from the best. That's what you do. But if you had subverted the rules, you realize that the best way to go is to ensure that you work equally in the home. So, flip the narrative. Women should start encouraging men and society to flip the narrative so that we do what society doesn't want us to do. Next. Right. Take up gender evangelism or dawah. Now, I'm going to, where is that lady from, that SIC lady? Yeah, the one, the Muslim lady, I'm forgetting her name. All right. Hawa, where is Hawa? She's outside because I saw her here. Now, let us look at this because I was going to ask somebody to read. Muslims do evangelize. It's a duty in Islam and it's called dawah. In Islamic dogma, dawah means to invite people to Islam. It is the act of making an appealing message, calling people to embrace the faith proclaimed by Muhammad as described in Quran. The dawah focuses on exclusive claims of Allah's strict monotheism and Muhammad's prophethood. Muslims are not shy about calling non-Muslims to Islam. They are not shy about it. Conversion to Islam is a goal. Just begin a religious conversation with a Muslim, and in a minute you'll be questioned about the faith, and you are open to receiving an opinion. So they, in an aggressive manner, they are converting. And my point is that you should also do the same thing as women. Evangelize, engage in dawah to bring other women on board on the gender advocacy. And so you have to think about dawah as a means, as a strategy of encouraging more women. In everything, please don't be shy about calling other women to come on the gender activism board. Let's go on. So what do? Help men gain higher gender awareness and recognize gender bias in the system. Support them to think critically and challenge and subvert gender biases. Support men to define masculine norms. Men say they won't cry because they are men. And so when they have lost a close relative, a mother, a father, a spouse, children, the women are crying, they say they won't cry. You are worrying yourself. You ask Dr. Beck, you die and leave your kids there. Sue! Cry! Like the way I cry when something happens to me. Sometimes I hide, I will go and hide and I will be crying. But that's good than not to cry at all. Purge yourself of that in those emotions. We have to help them to cry. Don't say that the man was crying. My partner also say. When you make those statements, they won't cry and they think that they have to engage in masculine behavior. Support, get female mentors for men and expose them to male leaders who champion gender inclusion. Next, appeal to men says there are some men like me who think that women need to be liberated. A lot of them, like all those who are here, appeal to them, to their conscience, and they also bring others on board. Invite men to participate in gender discussions and initiatives. We talk about that. Enlist the support of men in positions of power. If you want to change anything, you don't have power, you can't change it. So we have to bring them on board. Now let's go to the last part. The last part says, assert your position as the natural leader. And you see, look at the first slide, first bullet. Opinion leader in the Garden of Eden. There's something about subverting narrative, and I'm going to subvert this narrative. You see, the wiser of the two creatures was Eve. But you know, men have a way of making sure that women are subdued. The first opinion leader created was Eve. And opinion leaders are wiser than all the other people. When the serpent or Lucifer wanted to trick them to disobey God, Lucifer sat down and realized that the man is too stupid. If he goes to the man and the man will accept it, he can never persuade the woman because the woman is wiser. Between Adam and Eve, the serpent realized that because Eve is wiser, if he doesn't convince Eve to agree to the deed, and he goes to Adam first, Adam will come to Eve and say, "Are you stupid? Didn't you hear what our God said, Almighty God said? Come on, go ahead, I will go away, I'm not going to eat the fruit." But the serpent realized that, no, I'm not going to that stupid guy. I'm going to the wiser one. And went to the wiser one, said all the things, beautiful things. If you read the book called Paradise Lost by John Milton, he gives you all the expressions, the beautiful things that we say flattery to the woman. The woman agreed. And he went to Adam. I don't understand why they should have given him a name that indicates stupidity. But I don't know, the father of all. Then he went to Adam, and the job was easy. You know, after 1, 2, 3 questions, Adam followed Eve and ate the food. So naturally, the fact that you are the elder in society doesn't make you a leader. And so I see that women should know that they are the wiser of creatures because that is what happened in the Garden of Eden. And the serpent used the wiser person to change everything. And once he went there, Adam was caught. women are wiser than men. They are more intelligent than men. You see, when you are more intelligent than another person, doesn't mean the other person is not intelligent. The other person is, but you are more. And the earlier women acknowledge this fact, the better. And so they are natural opinion leaders. They wield opinion over others. And when they speak, others follow. So look back to the Garden of Eden and understand that you are opinion leaders. And when you speak, others should follow. Don't allow them to take you for granted. Then the basic CEO. You see, CEOship begins from the home. The things before formal organization started, women were playing the role of chief executive officers in the home, managing resources, managing people in the home, taking care of their health, taking care of their needs, taking care of their resources. So everything, management begins from the home. It doesn't begin from the office. And women have been doing this for years, just that we fail to recognize. So they are natural leaders because in the home the men will sit down and the woman will manage everything, including security. The man will go and sleep, and the woman who is the last person to check whether all the doors are locked. Is not true? So that is home management. The man has gone. You need the utmost efficiency. The little that they have, they can manage the home with it. Give it to the man and he's confused. He goes to the kitchen, he doesn't know where the knife even is. And when there is crisis, look at the calmness with which women manage crisis. And the men, they are so anxious, they don't know what to do. So, women are the magicians in the community. The way they can conjure meals for everybody in the family with just little 10 cedis. But no crying, I will now at the Yamahato. Or sometimes with nothing. And before there's nothing in the home, everybody is there's nothing. She goes out, she comes with food, and everybody is eating. She's a conjurer of life. So women are magicians, people who conjure things and they happen. And we need to acknowledge that they are not witches. In fact, I've said that they say women, everybody who is progressing is a witch. Witches have power. And please, women who are witches, it's a very good thing. Hold on to it. The men are afraid of it. That's why they are saying, you witch, we want to deliver you. Don't allow them to deliver you because it's powerful. How many times have they delivered wizards? How many times? And they said they want to deliver witches. Witchcraft, if somebody with witchcraft can fly from here to Boga, hey, and it's a power, I need some. And so they say, if witchcraft is doing that, then it's powerful. Because that is magic. And the men don't have it. But I want to let you know that naturally, women are magicians in the conjuring all sort of good things for the family and for the community, and we fail to applaud them because they are powerful. Because the man is not the man who is the magician, and so they will not acknowledge that. They are the miracle workers, the manna women who conjure things from the sky when we don't even anticipate. There are so many things our parents have done for us. Let me tell you something. When COVID-19 came, if government had put women at the forefront, you see what has happened. Even at my age, my mother commands me. He'll call me, Kwame. Yes, ma. Now when I say, first can come out, we have some command. Hey, assembly, so first can come out. You mate. Fakobano. What the command I there? You mate. That's all. My father cannot call me and give me that command. If we have said, women, command your kids to wear the mask, the person will be in Accra, and then the man will say, Kwesi, one another can hold your mask no one shall. What was we shall me? Count the mask, no? What Bodamana? Jimmy Samana Kakano, you mamma share. Come be a share. But I bet me class, the moon, I'm taking Krumamo, Modian, and also here. And this is free for you. Then you meet the friends, hey, why are you doing about that? Mommy, mommy say, if I know it. So, if we had used them that way, every student will be wearing the mask. Because they don't want their mom to think that they are not wearing it. They are afraid of the man. That's how they work miracles, but we don't see it. They are peacemakers. Where there's trouble, women will come and make peace. When we are conducting elections, as a president, we want a peaceful person. We want this and that. Women have those qualities already. Look for them. And they are the people that we need. So, my beautiful women and men here, if we want to change society, we need these 5 traits. We need to cultivate them. We need to pick them up. We need to learn them. We need to work with them. We need to understand that's what happens. Now, let me tell you one leadership that went. When COVID-19 came, UEW was calm. And one person who has changed everything, who has made us, now we live here peacefully, has been Dr. Fairwood. One day, we were at a meeting when all the big men were there. Then somebody called one of the big men. I'm not going to mention the big man's name. And then the person wanted to speak to that big man. No, I want to see you. Say, okay, no, you know we are in COVID times. You say, no, Prof, say, I want to see you. Say, I want to see you. Then finally, the person said, let's talk. The person goes home. The big man goes home. And then, while there, then the gentleman calls again. Said, I told you, let's talk. I want to come and see you. Please don't come. The next moment, the person is in the house. And then he said, sir, I'm in front of your house. But I told you to wait. Don't come here. Why? This is COVID time. Nevertheless, you wait. I'm coming to see you. Then the big man sets out and sees the gentleman a bit afar. Says, yes, what can I do for you? And the gentleman is wearing the mask. And then the big man too comes out wearing the mask. And then say, please, I came to tell you that remove the thing that I have COVID. Then the big man jumped from here. Wait! Why have you come here? What are you doing here? Then when the spouse heard it, the spouse was coming and he said, please close the door. Somebody has got the COVID. The person is here. And then the big man is shaking. And then guy, come on, go away. You know, in the moment of quaking and shaking, you know what the big man does? He picks the phone and goes, Dr. Bed, there's somebody here with COVID. You want a woman to come and take the COVID away. You are the man. The person has brought the COVID. And then this wonderful woman, this miracle worker, this manna woman, this woman with all the qualities, the opinion leader, the CEO, drove, came, picked that man with the COVID, put the man in her car, drove her to the hospital. Somebody is running away. That is why I say you are natural leaders. When we are running away, the courage that women have, they should have formed the army of any country. And with COVID coming, the best leaders have been women, not the Trump and others. So, I'm choosing to challenge you to pick the 5 trees, to cultivate them, to imbibe them, and so that society will be transformed and we all have a wonderful society. Now, look at this woman here, my last thing. She's a full professor. Prof, get up, Professor Ruby Hansen. How many of you know? Instead of screaming and making noise about this woman, women will not do that. They will scream about men. Now, when she became full professor, how many put it on their Facebook? When you have one of you, please scream, make noise. To support them. And that is how society will transform, so that we have a society that's equitable, that's inclusive, that we all love to be in. Thank you very much.
Please, let's give it up for him. Good. That's a beautiful one there. I was thinking we were going to give him a standing ovation. A standing ovation. And keep clapping. Please clap. That's a beautiful presentation by all standard. Thank you so much, Acting Pro-Vice Chancellor, for that wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Of course, OBK will never disappoint. Professor OBK will always deliver. And you can bear with me, and you can agree with me that I will not say he, because in his house, they are all women. Prof, are you not a woman? He has done a great job. Thank you so much, Prof. On that transforming note, he said that we need to transform the society so that we would change the status quo, and then we would take women from the subservient position that they find themselves, and then they will lead us. So men, I leave you with what the Bible says in Romans chapter 12, verse 2. It says that be transformed by the renewal of your what? Of your mind. Thank you so much. Let's give it up for Professor one more time. At this point, that Prof is on fire. I would welcome some few questions, and then he will take some few questions, and then we'll continue with the program. Few questions. Please, if you have a question, just raise your hands. We'll bring the microphone to you. Thank you so much. You mention your name, maybe your department, and the question. And can you please give Prof a microphone as well?
Said it all, and you have come so much. What I want to add is that all parents and guardians around, I urge all of you, right from the onset, we should make our children to have it in mind that we should give our children equal opportunity right from the onset, so that when they grow up, they will do away with the perception that men are more powerful than women. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful contribution. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Prof, for this wonderful, very wonderful presentation. I'm highly inspired, and I know my colleagues here are also feeling the same. Before I even ask any question, I want to suggest that we put this presentation on the platform, or if we have, I think we have a radio station in the university.
We have?
We have an FM station.
Yes, Radio Winneba 98.3. Yes, I think they covered it live, right? It's airing live on Radio Winneba 98.3. And then it's on Facebook too. So please go on our social media platform and share it.
Okay. I want to commend our management for raising our mommy to the status of a professor, full professor, and then to all the women in leadership in the university. I want to suggest that as my sister suggested, from home, the change must start from home, because it is from the home that all these things begin. For instance, when you look at our cultural makeup, and then some of our religious beliefs, some are even ethnic, you have a situation where the girls cannot even suggest things in their home. For instance, I've lived with a community, a Muslim community, where girls are always undermined. It's like a girl wants to say something and the parents are like, no, girls don't. This one is for boys. And so from the home, from the scratch, the children are made to believe that girls cannot go there. And I think it is very unfortunate, and I want to plead with, if we have basic education teachers here, or parents, we are all parents, please, let us begin from there. Secondly, I want to also suggest that these programs to the gender units, that it shouldn't be only on International Women's Day that we should have such programs or discussions. We can do it when we have general programs, so that men, because if we have the men on our side, I think it will help us more, so that we'll have a lot of the men also taking part in whatever that is going on. Prof, we are grateful. God bless.
Thank you. That there? That gentleman. Okay. Please do well to mention your name and possibly the department you're coming from.
Hello. Please, I'm Greg. I have to go from the ICT department of 300. First of all, I want to thank you so much for speaking on some of these things that some of us are advocating for. I'm an ambassador who strongly believe that the fact is the gender equality has to reach our government. Man is not in the proportion, but I want to emphasize on the point Prof made that women are stronger and powerful than men. A survey conducted in the US, which I had the opportunity to read, indicates that women naturally think with two sides of their brain, in the sense that a woman can be the kitchen, probably slicing onion, being on the phone at the same time, controlling the kids, and listening to music, like 4 activities at the same time. But the woman is good to go. But a man sitting in the sofa just watching football and gossiping, the woman hears the noise of the kids in the bedroom is confused. So with some little comments from there, it's like naturally women are very strong, but it is left with society to let them understand that these natural instincts they have are more powerful, but they are not being used of it. It's just unfortunate after Prof finished speaking, very few women were able to be commenting for such a wonderful presentation. So women in some instances, they feel that what society gives them that they are not powerful, or men are always powerful, and that they are going to believe that. But on this occasion, they have to defy the law, just as God is saying, to rise up on their occasion, to make sure that they are really powerful than men. Thank you.
Thank you. I will take, I think the last two. It seems you're all contributing, you're not asking questions, so you're giving Prof free day.
Thank you. I'm Gertrude Isabella Auja, level 300, French education. I would like to say two things, and one is linked to our education system. Over the years, we've been studying citizenship education at the primary level, and there's a topic there that's knowing myself. But then I think we don't teach it into details. So even though after handling the knowing myself, the pupils still don't understand themselves. And we also have the gender unit already in GS. So though they are not going to add any other subjects to sensitize the girl child, I think with the class being formed, they can do something to sensitize the girls so that they'll know themselves very well, and then they'll be able to also participate in every other activity. The second one has to do with supporting women. Prof said something about we the women supporting each other. Yes, when you go out and you start telling someone to defy the social norms, some people will think you are making them go astray, because some women already accept it the way it is. So what I think is the women who are already leaders can see the assemblymen and other leaders in the community and have meetings with them so that they sensitize them and they are examples to them, so that they'll see how well they've developed, and then they will have the courage to also develop themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. I have a question, but before that, I think my boss there has a question.
Thank you very much, and thank you for Prof for the presentation. There's this school of thought that if we encourage the ladies to finally assume positions in society, they are likely to override a lot of things, and men will be in trouble. What is your view about this?
This one is an interesting one. Of course, you are in trouble. Okay, that's one. Okay, my question is, I think you take, since it's the first one, you also ask questions. So we have 3 questions for you. So the second one is, you spoke about women talking more and listening less. And I know that in an usual sense, you would have to listen more to be able to get more, to talk more. But if you are, I don't know how you want to conceptualize that talk more and listen less, so that women will not take it as though you should just go and anything that comes into your mind at any forum, you just start speaking because Prof. Obike says, speak more and then listen less. That's my question.
Yes, Prof. My question has to do with churches and religious organizations and how they present women as far as being controlling and powerful is, concerned. I'm saying that mine has to do with churches and other religious organizations and how they create that impression that women are supposed to be subservient to men, and so we don't have to have that controlling power. We are supposed to be serving, respectful. I mean, we play the second role and men play the upper role. Because women are religious people and we always go there to get that spiritual support. But this is the kind of teaching we receive when we also go to such an environment.
Thank you very much. Let me take it from the last question of churches and control. You see, when I was preparing for this presentation, the personal challenge that I had was, I wish I could be talking about what I've been talking about over and over in the last 4 years, because they lay foundation for all the discussions. And especially when you have, I think about also the audience who have been here every year, and I'm saying the same thing to them. So I'm struggling between giving new people new ideas and at the same time satisfying those who have also been here. The point is that that issue I can easily address it, but I wish that we get another forum for me to talk about it. Because what happens is this. You see, if you want to transform society, you need to transform culture. Culture is the mediator of all our behaviors. And there are institutions that propagate culture, that mediate culture. And the church is one powerful institution that is directing the behaviors of men and women. And if you don't understand how society has been transformed through the cultural positions of these institutions, you never make sense of it. I agree. You see, there's something that we call adherence. When you live with somebody and the person is an oppressor, before you realize you yourself, you have also become an oppressor. Because you are taking the culture and the characteristics that you have. The churches have realized that women and men are not conscious. Deliberate. And therefore, anybody who is conscious will not take every interpretation of his or her pastor wrong. You will think critically about it and ask yourself whether it makes sense. Because me, if you ask me personally, I don't understand why a woman is suffering domestic abuse and the pastor is counseling that person to stay in the marriage. And then finally, when the person is beaten or is injured or dies, they will say, Nyamina Dima or no I will never worship that God. That God who gives things to me easily and takes it away anytime. The point is that human beings are agents of those criminal acts. And unless women are liberated, they will never be able to reflect on their past in order to act. That's why we need, as I said, we need another forum where we let you know that these things that are happening to you are things that you need to liberate yourself from. It doesn't mean that when you liberate yourself, you don't serve God. You can serve the same God in purity and in mind, in purity of heart and mind. But women normally think that Ashari is everything. And they worship their pastors. So that the pastor has a wife and women, all women have gone to the house and they are cleaning the house of that pastor. You see, so we need that kind of liberated mind. And that's why if you are conscious, you need to get conscientization. If you are not conscious, and we know that a lot of us don't have that. That's why it's difficult for us to even accept gender advocacy, because we are not conscious. And the churches know. There are church leaders who are conscious and they know you are ignorant. So they prey on your ignorance. And so, my sister, that one, another forum will deal with it. But it's a very big issue. That if you go and say it, because now, with women, with this empowerment of women overtaking men, Dr. Peter said, oh, in fact, when you ask me that, I am praying for the day that, oh Lord, women will overtake men and control all aspects of society, for men to see how is it to be marginalized. You see, the point about gender mainstreaming is not about women overtaking men. It's about ensuring that women and men have equal access to power, to resources, to decision making, to development benefits. Now, so that a lot of them don't have those access, we are encouraging that they come to that level. We are not saying they should come and overtake men. In fact, even if you give them thousands, they will not come and overtake men, but we want them to be at parity with men. So that is a fear, that's a fear that men have. They think that if you encourage women, they will come and overtake them. No, they won't. But if you don't encourage them, society will never progress. Throughout the whole world, no society has progressed by leaving women behind. Never happened anywhere. And so we believe that if we encourage the women, then society will progress. So, Peter, they will never overtake you. In fact, your wife will be at par with you. I'm praying that she overtakes you so that you know how it is to be the subordinate in the house.
He wants to leave, so he will come before the
but
event continues.
They are come with liberated mindset. They will not behave with the same mindset that we behave towards them. Then the last one is listen less, talk more. Oh, you see, when you say deviant behavior, and I intentionally put that there. Women do not talk at all. Look, we open the forum for them. How many women talk? Look at the women here. Because they've been conditioned to think that they are not public forum speakers. And so if you don't encourage them that speak more and listen less, then you are agitating them to think about anything that say something. You whatever you want to say, go ahead and say it. That is the beginning of building confidence in public fora. And so that one, I'm encouraging our lecturers, and I don't know whether my students are here. Please, for the sake of positive deviant behavior, listen less, talk more. That is what the men do. If you don't do that, the men will still talk more and listen less and will dominate all discussion. And that's the context in which I'm putting it. In order to initiate that vibrant behavior, that vibrant nature in women that has been muted for a long time. I want to unmute the voices of women. And the only way to do that is to ask them to talk more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof, for that elucidation.
Shall we give it up for Professor Brinkwine? He's done justice to the topic. Now we want to invite our chairman to give us an overview of the program. He's been in his seat for quite a long time, and we've just been asked not to be quiet, but to talk more. The chairman wants to set an example by talking more and being quiet less.
All right, thank you very much. Giving overview of the whole program is something else, isn't it? Well, thank you very much. We have to travel to Kumasi within the next 5 minutes for another program, and so it is just in order that I encourage you. So far, I'm happy you listened to ProVC very well, and I'm waiting for that day when your advocacy, Prof, are you listening? Prof, are you here? I'm waiting for one day when you will actually initiate for a cultural transformation, because I'm telling you, that is the factor. How can, I mean, now you think that it's only a woman who should cook for a husband. And then in the Bible, like Osofo was saying, it was Mary who said that, who told the disciples that whatever Jesus Christ tells you, do it. So biblically, you can really see that these things, have been there. But it begins from somewhere. And what you are doing is so good that we want to encourage you. And take everything that Prof has said seriously. Because now the problem we have is that you will come and listen to these beautiful pieces, but the implementation is a problem. You need to gather that momentum and start from somewhere. And I believe that you will be able to transform the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for everyone to do a good job. Thank you very much. Shall we give it up for him again? I hope we have really had a very the men had an appetite. We've had a meeting. We have no and very soon. Just before we need a snack, isn't it? And so to give us a musical interlude. Sarah, shall we put our hands together as she comes upstage? Do it better for her. Do it better for her.
bro. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Give it up, give it up, give it
Please
up.
give it up for her.
Soothing music.
Wow.
Your notes were right on point. Another meal from a woman. She is from the Faculty of Science Education. She's actually the Dean of the Faculty of Science Education, a professor of chemistry education. She has mentored many and a number of females. She believes in empowering women to get to the apex of their career. She has over 65 publications. 65.
Ladies and gentlemen, she contributed enormously to the drafting of the science curriculum, that's the TTEL curriculum, and then the course manual. She is a very phenomenal woman and was the acting Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba. Ladies and gentlemen, we introduce to you
Professor Ruby Hansen.
A round of applause for her, Professor.
Welcome her. Get up,
Please, a standing ovation for her. 65 publications.
Let's dance to welcome her. That's the music.
Okay, yeah. So this is the music for the welcome music.
Check it up. Check it up.
Prof, you requested for this song. So you are going to dance, right?
Dance, check it up.
I was thinking you were going to dance.
That's the move for the phenomenal woman.
Those of us, okay.
Shake it up. She wants to see you dancing. Yay! Shake it up. Give it up.
Thank you.
From where the province left off. From his presentation, I can see that the problem that we as men have is because of stereotyping, the biases. That's all our problem is. And like Dr. Kayure was rightly answered, the culture has to change. The environment has to change. And like one other contributor said, it should all begin from home. So it never began from our homes. We have found ourselves where we are now. What can we do as leaders to attempt to change the environment or the culture in our workplace or in our study place? What can we do as people who serve and are leaders to change the corner in which we are? Most of the things I have are repetitions, so I think I'll move very fast. So we will look at who a leader is, or the role of leadership. So when one is a leader, it means you are kind of in control. People look up to you to come up with beautiful ideas that will move them on positively. You are expected to chart a path of progress for people. Therefore, it's also expected that you have some kind of characteristics. So a leader is expected to be at the helm of affairs, to lead others on,
often for a good cause. I know we have leaders who never give good advice, not that kind of leader. As far as gender and women are concerned, we want the positive. So it's about inspiring and empowering other people. We've heard a lot about empowerment. The discipline of exerting special influence within a group to move it towards good set goals, and so on and so forth. We can consciously learn to be leaders. Sometimes we just imbibe it because we see the leadership in our homes, in our workplace, and in the environment which we live. But you can learn to be a good leader also. You can even observe someone and tell yourself, I want to be this kind of leader. So you can do that. The next slide. So I talked about exhibiting or having the characteristics of a good leader. Characteristics of a leader are to have the capacity to effect positive change, be assertive, be proactive. When you are assertive, it's not a matter of being rude or just merely talking because you want to talk or be heard. But then doing the right things at the right time for a good effect. You need to be proactive, you need to be thoughtful, and be a deep thinker. Remember that you are leading others on, and you want to lead them on a good path, a path of progress. So that's what you have to be. You need to have certain skills. Like I said, you can culture all of these things. You need to have skills for mediation, openness, and know how to go about coordinating things. The catchword is for positive effects, wherever you find yourself. But then quite often, we find ourselves not being able to do these things because of stereotyping and biases, which have been ingrained in us. So as much as we try, we fall back into where we do not have to fall into. Okay, so I mentioned the word bias and stereotype. What do we mean by the word bias? Women in particular often suffer a lot of biases because we have allowed ourselves to fall into stereotyping realms. Bias is a prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person or group compared with another, usually in a way deemed to be unfair. It's a subjective preference towards a particular viewpoint or belief that prevents a person from maintaining objectivity. I think the English is quite simple, isn't it? Hey. I always expect a response when I ask a question. Please note that. Okay. Bias is an overarching definition of stereotype, the word stereotype, and prejudice as it's associated with negativity. Stereotyping occurs when a person describes the collective characteristics associated with a particular group to every member of that group, thereby discounting individuality. For example, all women are like this. All people from this village are like that. All people from, these people behave this way, this thing does this. It means you have set something, somebody, or whatever in a straight jacket, a kind of unmovable jacket, and you refuse to recognize that somebody could even be different from the rest. So no matter what they do, you see them to be like what you want to see. Okay. So here I have a slide on the differences, similarities and differences between bias and stereotyping. I think I've talked enough about that, so we can move on. So examples of bias are cultural biases, like I attend this church, you attend that church, I'm a Christian, you are a Muslim, I'm better than you, and so on and so forth. Christians behave this way, Muslims behave this way. Once she's a Muslim, this is the way she will behave, and so on and so forth. You know, we assume things, like I said before, we do not even consider the individuality. That is one major drawback to progress. We need to consider people for who they are, and not from where they come or where they belong. Just look at them as individuals. And women suffer this a lot. Like we heard from our last presenter, people have set minds about who women are. But then sometimes I ask myself, do we always want to be seen like that? I have said it here before that my late husband used to say, you are like a man. You always want to do things that men are doing. You always want to follow them to places. So I have to keep explaining. In my class, I'm the only woman. In my workplace, I'm the only woman. I am assigned to things that men are also assigned to. So I have to do the same things with them. So you can see where he was coming from. I had to do this all the days of my life that we lived together. So I can understand the Prof VC so well, and the way he's so passionate about women moving out of the doldrum that they find themselves in. Okay, these are all repetitions of what I already said, and that's a very good example. For example, there are two people, all equally good for a particular job. One is a man, one is a woman. Or one is a white person, one is a black person. But then society will think that the woman cannot do the job as well as the man can. Or the black person cannot do the job as well as a white person can. I don't know where all these funny things come from. But then we live them. And it's even worse when you are a woman who is married. I cannot give this job to this woman because what the man and so on and so forth. For those who don't understand, I said if there are two, there is one opening and one woman is married, the other may not be married, or one other contestant may be a man. Quite often, the opening may be given to someone else and not the one who is married with a husband and worst of all with kids. Because before you even assign the work, you will think to yourself that if I give this job or opening to this woman, she might have to go and pick her kids from school, she might have to send her sick child to hospital at one time. I mean, why can't you think that the man who is married can also send his wife to the hospital? Can also send his child to the hospital? Why must you think in that terms for the woman? So this calls for a lot of reflection. Women, we need to sit up, and then even before such situations arise, we need to talk about them. Prophet, did you say talk more? Talk more or listen more? Talk more. So even before the situation arises, let's talk more. Let us let people know that a woman can do all of take up their job and do what a man can do. A man can equally do all those things that someone is thinking will be done by a woman, so that the woman will not be good enough for that opening that is available. Okay. And you have the definition of bias there, which I have explained already. We exhibit bias in a number of ways, though unconsciously. Everybody here, including myself, we all have some bias, and we exhibit it. And as we exhibit it, other people imbibe it. We also imbibe what other people exhibit. Though we cannot stop it, we can interrupt it in a way. On this day, it's important that we realize some of these biases, which I have talked about, ethnic biases, cultural biases, gender biases, and so on and so forth, and all the biases we can think of in the workplace. We need to consciously realize this, talk about it, talk more about it, and find out how we can overcome some of these things. Okay. Now, this story about bias is so much with us because it's a mental kind of thing. Like I said, imbibe. We imbibe things, and we've been imbibing things since our infancy, and we will continue to imbibe. The mind categorizes things all the time. I'm sure most of you have read education, and you know that in our mind we have mental compartments. Not really, but like, where we put things, we categorize and put things. So if I see an orange, or I hear about an orange, and I've always had an image about an orange as being yellowish, orangish, or something. Anytime I see something like an orange, or I hear the word orange, it goes into a certain compartment in my brain. So that is how it is like. In your brain, you know that section A of people are like this. Section B, an environment for, permit me to use Muslims with all due respect. It's like this. An environment for maybe white people is also like that. So you go to somebody's house, and the arrangement and setup and everything is like what you have in your mind in that compartment about white people. So your immediate reaction or comment will be, your house is like a white person's house. Because in your mind, you know this is how white people's house should be. Your house is like so and so's house, people in this class, because that's what you have in your mind. So the mind plays a major role in creation of biases and stereotypes. If it is the mind that creates these things, if it is the mind that has made us who we are, then again, we can go to the same mind and undo what was done. And because this has been done gradually and it has been built deeply, it's going to be difficult to undo it. But where there is a will, there is always a way, isn't it? So we can and we must try to do what is expected. So that is how biases and stereotyping is formed. Okay. So it's done unconsciously, gradually, but steadily. It is done, and it's unconscious. So I ask a question. Could bias be both positive and negative? Can bias be good and bad? Can bias be done and undone? Yes, it's possible. Okay. So, well, I wanted us to debate, but I realized we didn't start early, talk about this for a while. Okay. Is it always up to leaders to make moves for change? From our first presentation, now we know that each of us is a change unto themselves. I must begin to make a change in the world in which I find myself, and you must also be able to make a change in the world in which you find yourself. You don't need to be a leader before you make a change. We have learned from our first presenter. Each of us can make a change, as I have said. Okay. So biases, as I explained earlier, are formed from our backgrounds. From our very infancy, we start forming these biases unconsciously. And we live them out. Interestingly, the human being lives out negative things so well. I wonder why we are like this. Just as we talk about bad things so well, in the same way we live out, I don't know, it's like a bit of enjoyment. I think of it and I cannot comprehend myself. Maybe one day one of you will be able to understand all this. So this is how it's not limited to this. These are only a few ways by which we form biases unconsciously from our background, our cultural environment, our personal experiences, from biased media. As for the media, they are a whole day's talk. The way they can present things and present them in such a manner to work on your mind, to accept it, and often it's not the truth too. They are a different world unto themselves. So from biased media, communication people are in media, right? Brothers and sisters, you have to do well now. Okay, and repeated exposure, the repeated exposure. All the time, you hear your mother say something all the time, your father all the time, you know, in your family, in your background, where you find yourself, repeatedly. So it becomes truth for you, and you live it. But I ask the question again, must it forever be like this? Can't we ever change? It's possible. Okay. Can I have the next slide? Okay. And this bias and stereotyping issue, if you recall the first slide, I said on bias, I said often, I added a clause, often negatively. These things often do not, they could be positive, but often negatively. So how are we affected by unconscious biases? It affects the way we see people. It affects how we react to certain people. I do not like this set of people at all. I do not like short people. I do not like fat people. They appall me. I don't like fair-colored people. Like one of my sons advised the younger brother, Katie, make sure you don't marry a fair-colored person or else you will bring trouble to your house. They are often possessed. This is because he sees on television that fair-colored people are forever being delivered. Fair-colored people are always saying, so this little boy has an idea about fairness. He relates fairness to trouble. So how we react to certain people, how receptive or friendly we are towards certain people, who we pay attention to and actively listen to, and so on and so forth. So you see that, in a way, we tend to affirm all these little things that come into our daily lives. And they eventually make us who we are and how people see us. Because like the Bible says, a man is what? Dr. Beth, you are more into religion. Okay, let me try. It's like what goes, like the food that you eat comes out, so it doesn't harm you much. But then, what is really in you and what comes out is what you really are. What is really in you is like who you are, how your heart is, how your mind is, the spirit being. That is what it means. Today, I'm also being a little pastor here. Reverend, with all due, okay, so as I'm talking and talking and talking, you see that I am talking in a particular direction, almost condemning something. These biases and stereotypes that we live with. So if we realize they are not good, how can we mitigate them? Remember I said that ruling them out completely will be very difficult. Because even as you rule, you imbibe new things. As you rule, you imbibe new ones. So how can we mitigate them? It's a conscious effort that will help us to mitigate some of these things only a conscious effort. Do you feel uneasy when you express bias? Or you don't feel anything at all? If you don't feel anything at all, it means you don't even have the awareness. And you cannot work on something that for you is non-existent. Bias is part of your identity, like I said. What you see every day, what you imbibe every day becomes you. So like you take onion, tomatoes, pepper, whatever. Your entire body is what you have taken in. That is who you are. That is who you can ever be. But then if you don't want your face showing tomato, pepper, onion, what do you have to do? You need to work consciously. Maybe you want a cabbage face. So you try to stock the upper part of your body with cabbage or whatever you want. Your bias revolves around something you value and you want to keep. That is why you do not even see whether it's there or not. And interestingly, we always want people to say nice things about us. We always want people to say nice things about us. And we always want to be number one. Recently, a young girl came to visit me, and my mother asked her about her performance in school. She said, that she does very well. So in the primary school, she was the head girl. But when she went to the JSS, she wasn't even recognized. She wasn't made the head girl. And then my mother said, maybe because they are better people than you, or you need to prove yourself, or perhaps it's because you are only in your first year. And the girl looked kind of downcast. It's like my mother is not even understanding her. So she has this kind of image about herself. That's what she was portraying, that she must be valued, she must be this, and she must be that. Meanwhile, she didn't even recognize that the head girl she went to meet is worthy of being a head girl. She thinks she's better, only in Form 1. And she doesn't even recognize the lady in Form 3 who is the head girl. So look at the value she has placed on herself. She has a problem to begin with, but well. Okay, next one. So, interrupting these biases and stereotypes. I think, Eva, look at my bullet 2. I think the Gender Directorate can do that. I called you back because I saw you moving away. Okay. So as I said earlier on, if biases are created, then we can interrupt them using our mind, as I said earlier on. And we need to give training. We need to make people conscious of the fact that there are biases. They are biases themselves, others are biases. We need to work positively on this. If we do that, it will lead us on to bullet 3. We will create inclusiveness. As I heard the prophecy speak, men doing everything, women being marginalized, and so on and so forth. There are many women who are very intelligent, who can contribute immensely to making their homes better, making their workplaces better, and even on the national level, making the nation move on. But nobody wants to recognize them. I am sure that if there is a kind of magic that we can use to recognize all these people and bring them on board, you see the wonderful ideas that we will have. Put them all together and move our nation, our offices, and our homes on. We must be able to schedule inclusive meetings. What I mean by inclusive meetings is trying to bring everybody on board. Not just bringing everybody on board, but then listening to people too. Sometimes at our meeting places, when a woman makes a comment, there is an issue to be discussed and a woman makes a contribution. It's almost as if nobody heard that contribution. At best, it might be something like, oh. But then when a man makes the same contribution that they have stolen from you, the chair might say, oh wow, Mr. Something, this idea is good, we'll buy into it. So you know what I do at my workplace? When one person makes a contribution and others don't acknowledge it, and then another person steals the same idea and presents it, and then people want to praise the other one, I say, oh, your idea is just like what A or B made. And I think the two of you think alike. So in a way, I have acknowledged the one who was being drowned. And I do that more when women on my committee or something make comments, very good comments. Then I try to attribute the praise to them. And it makes them feel good. And they come up with more innovative and constructive ideas. So that is about inclusiveness. Create policies for actions at meetings. So the heads and the deans and directors here can take note of that. What do I mean by creating policy for actions at meetings? Will you want one person only to take charge of the meeting? Do you want to recognize only one person's contributions? No. If somebody has made 2 contributions to a same point, allow others to make contributions. You can even call people. You know, sometimes when we are called, and especially by name, it makes us feel good. So you can call somebody else, what do you think about this? Quite often when you say, what do you think about this? Then they will share their idea. So you need to set policies. Nobody can give 2 or more contributions. When you get up, say all that you want to say, and so on and so forth. Then you deliberately have to assign persons, especially women, who never want to be assertive. You actually need to assign them not just any kind of work, but high-profile work that ordinarily would have been assigned to men. Give it to women in your workplaces to do. And you see how well they will do them too. In a way, if they are able to execute it successfully, the men tend to respect them also. Even if they are quiet, unassuming people in your workplace, you can do the same for them. Assign them high-profile jobs to do. And rotate work. You can't say, this one serves tea better, so every time she will serve tea. This one takes notes better, so every time he will take notes. After some time, the person will become so pompous in that place. The person might not even respect the one who makes good tea for them to drink. So why don't you allow the one who takes notes to serve tea sometimes, and the one who serves tea, if they have that capacity, to also do notes taking. So we need to rotate roles. At home, like we had, let your husband prepare breakfast. You prepare lunch. Together prepare dinner. I can see in my mind's eye so many women saying, people here saying, where the ebeye pa. Once you start, it will continue. Okay, so we have more ways here of learning to deliberately reduce bias. There are so many, I can't read through them, but I'm sure you can read through them quietly. Okay. Oh, I like the last but one bullet. The last but one bullet. Socialize indiscriminately. You may not understand that one. What I mean is, sometimes when there are gatherings, you find me sitting together with, let's say, Hartwell. Every time, sitting together with Hartwell. That is not good enough. I have to open up. She also has to open up. It's only when we open up that we can listen to what other people have and then take the good things out of what we hear and make ourselves better. We also share things with them and help them to develop. But then if at all meetings I'm seen sitting with Hartwell, anytime there's a gathering, that is indiscriminate and negative socialization. So let's learn to do that, and it will help us a lot. Okay. Oh, so many ways to challenge the bias. The same thing over and over. Okay. So there are many ways to act as an ally in the workplace. Not only in the workplace, in the classroom, in the church, wherever you find yourself. Okay. If people are doing things that are not bad, you can quietly point that are bad, bias-based. You can quietly, gently, and responsively point it out to them. For example, somebody makes a comment like, why are you asking so-and-so to do this thing? This is about computers. Look at her age. Can she handle what you want? Why don't you give the job to so-and-so? This person is a youth, 30 years. This person will do better than the 57-year-old that you are giving this work to. But sometimes it might not be true. It is wrong judgment. You might give the work to the 35-year-old, and they might not do it as well as the 57-year-old will do. You know, in a way, you have put the 57-year-old into a compartment, showing bias because of age. Like, how do you call us? BBC, right? Born before computer. You know, all of these things are biases. Try the person. If the person doesn't work it out well, you will find another way out. Okay. So in a way, we need to be open-minded. I think this is just talking about being open-minded, being willing to liberate yourself, being aware that you have lived with biases, you show biases, and you have accepted biases from people. Therefore, you have been put into a certain role. So on Women's Day, let us try to do a lot of reflection on what we have heard. Let us try to see where we can begin from. We cannot do it all at once. We might not even remember it all at once. It's when we remember that we might be able to enact it. But the little that you can remember, you need to start acting. Remember that, I've said this here before, that you start small, and then you grow on the small that you have started on, and you become big. But let's do something. Let's take action. Let's not just listen and go, and then come and listen to the same things or almost same things year after year. Okay. So we need to deal with bias proactively. I think I've said it all. We just don't need to be bystanders. If somebody is doing something which is not right, you point it out to them gently that the person is delving into the area of stereotyping or biasing. So I ask the question, as a leader, what is your role in these pandemic-stricken times when people are already under stress? We cannot go out freely. We cannot do many things freely. As I talk now, I can feel vapor gathering in the mask that I'm wearing. So you see, I'm not free. I want to talk a lot, show you how to move out of the stereotypes setting that you find yourself in. But I cannot talk forever. We need to find out ways of breaking free, even in these times. Okay. So as leaders, most of us here are leaders, or you will be leaders very soon. We must be, one, aware of others and of ourselves, the biases that exist in us. We must be able to manage our behaviors quite well. build cultural awareness. So if you are culturally aware of the things that are going on around you, of who doesn't eat what, who doesn't wear what, who doesn't do what, and so on and so forth, you'll be able to behave well towards them, and they will also be able to behave well towards you, thereby reducing bias. We must be aware of triggers in ourselves and in others, and we must remember that this favoritism thing is always there. It's possible for you to favor some people more and for you to be favored, but you must be able to deal with all of these things. We don't have to make hasty assumptions about others. For example, Asians can do this, Asians cannot do this. That is not good enough. We need to be open-minded. Be conscious of your body language and your verbal language. How are you telling somebody something with your body and with your language, with your verbal language? We need to base decisions on facts, not on hearsay, not on what we think a particular group of people are like or behave like or want, and so on and so forth. We need to make inclusivity our catchword and our action. Okay, so this is an exercise for you. Think about events in your life. How have they shaped your values and your worldviews? What is your perception about others? Even as I stand here, I know people have some weird kind of perceptions about me, right? I hope so, and I claim their positiveness. How do you interact with others? The way you interact with others will be based on the way you see them and how you yourself, you have been formed over the years. Okay. So I'll leave you with this reflective exercise. Think about yourself. Are you happy as you are now? Have you achieved all that you want? What are your goals? How will you achieve them? What are those things putting brakes in your way? Are they easily removable, workable? Can you work on them? Do a deep kind of reflection. If there is satisfaction, fine, but I can assure you there is room for improvement. If you are not satisfied, then be proactive. Try to show assertiveness in all the things that you want to do, and I believe it will be well with you. Not today, but gradually. Just as you have imbibed all kinds of things gradually, you will, I don't know the opposite, one, unimbibe, whatever. Prof. EC created a new word, 2 new words. Who signed what? Something. Okay, so I've also created one word, imbibe, all those things. Okay. So, I thought this was going to be a very interactive exercise, but I see that we've already spent so much time. So what can we do as female leaders who are already in the minority and suffer these biases? Can one person change the world's views? That is, change the environment? Let's act consciously and positively. I should have added, let's be open-minded also. Be an advocate for change. From here, be an advocate for change. Do your personal reflection and see how you can move yourself and those around you forward, so that next year when we meet, we will have so many good things to say about how we have moved on, how we have made ourselves better, and how we have made the world a better place to stay. I think I'm done. Thank you. Okay, if there is time, can you go back to my questions? I'll be too happy to present them again. I think yeah. Oh, this is reflection. Can I see the one before this? No. So think about events in your life. How have they shaped your values and your worldview? And what is your perception about others? How do you interact with others? Can we? Yeah. So I'm being taught by the director what to say. She said I should tell you, can someone share their beautiful experience with us? Remember that when I put out a question, I expect a response, please.
Okay, so because this is an academic institution, this part is the classroom. And you are the honorable, brilliant students, phenomenal students. So phenomenal students, question. Think about events in your life. That's more or less phenomenological. How have they shaped your values and worldview? So, events in your life. It can be your SHS experience. It can be how you grew up with both parents, or maybe from a single home. It can be your encounter with one of the guys that you are no more with, and how it shaped your life. How your heartbreak has informed your choice of a man who wears pointed shoe. All these things are very important. You can share them with us, and we'll be gladly.
So now you have so many leads. You have so many tips.
Okay, so that woman wants to share. Please give her a microphone. Thank you. Okay, so from here we'll come to you. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thinking about an event in my life, I cast my mind back to when I stepped into the university, and then from my department, that's the Home Economics Department, I decided to take up the responsibility of departmental vice president. And when I got that position, I asked myself, what can I do for the department? So that year, we wanted to renovate our washroom. I went out and tried to get some washroom accessories from sponsors. Though that year we couldn't do it, but those accessories were there, and then later on, they were used in the department. And anytime I see it, I'm moving to the second question. Anytime I enter the wall and I see those accessories, I feel proud of myself. Though not everybody is aware that I went out and got those things, but I feel proud of myself that I have been able to get those things, and then we have that washroom in place. From that point, it challenged me that no matter the situation in which you find yourself, you can create a change, and you can lead other people to realize what their abilities are. And that have moved me to SRC Secretary, then to GRASAC President here in UEW, and now a National GRASAC President. And I feel that I picked up those traits right from the university here and encouraged myself through it. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thanks so much for that.
That's really wonderful.
For sharing that with us. Please, the fair lady. Not the kind of perception about fair ladies in a way. Not that stereotyped perception about fair women. Okay.
Thank you very much, Prof, for your presentation. I would like to talk about what is your perception about others. I am coming from the northern region of Ghana, Upper West to be precise. Sometimes, for instance, even other universities or other academic institutions where you find yourself, someone will see you and ask you, where do you come from? Then you said you are from the north. So sometimes I do ask myself, why A? You are from the north. Are you not missing? So they will ask you, region because you are fair. Those the water regions are those that are supposed to be fair because we are those that are not, they are dark because and then other perception they have about the north. And sometimes I do because we are in an academic institution and then we should have this kind of perception. Even if you are not from the north, but you are interacting with a lot of people at the university, you should learn a lot of things that whatever you have been told maybe in your past years about the north or about some issues, you shouldn't target with those people when you meet them. Now who from north now who you say? Who from north now who you say? Then I ask myself, we are in the university and people still think this way. So what kind of people are we producing? Because when they go out, they will see other people and they'll tag them that way. And sometimes not everybody that will take it lightly when you say such things about them. So my state on this one, your perception about others is that when you meet people, you shouldn't tag them with some kind of perception you already know or you already have about those people. So sometimes you do that, the good things you have to learn from those people, you don't learn it again because you already know that, yes, this kind of people, this is how they are. And then as women, it's drawing us back, especially when somebody takes the mandate of being an entrepreneur and is trying to put up something innovative and creative. And then you are saying that, now no for and I say, oh, these kind of people, do they think this way? Can they do this way? Things this way? Instead of you learning, we are trying to tag ourselves back because of the perception we are having about those people. So I would say as women, as we are growing, especially with the young ones coming, we shouldn't tag ourselves with some kind of perception about some people, or we shouldn't think that some people are more classic or having some kind of
status.
Yes, than other people. Because in this world, life is just some way before us now.
Thank you. So
You get it?
yeah.
Because those you might think they can't help you are those who will help you at the end of the day. Okay. So I would say that we shouldn't tag people with some kind of perceptions we already have, but we should be willing and open to learn when we meet them. Thank you.
Your name again, please.
Department service person.
Thank you so much for that. A quick one.
Please, I'm Mabel Ajakum from Department of Graphic Design. I'm coming to talk about the event in my life was during this internship period. When I came to level 100, I'm doing graphic design, but I was not having laptop. Neither was I having a camera. It got to a point they gave us projects. Because I was not having, I have to depend on friends. But I went for a friend's laptop and the person was like, I should go and buy my own laptop. So that project, I couldn't do it, so I couldn't submit it. But during this internship period, I've not, though we're taught photography, but I wasn't having any that deep experience in that because I wasn't having a camera. But when I got to the publications and web design unit, they gave me the open forum. Whenever we're going for a program, they give me the camera to also go and snap, take pictures. So that one has given me the confidence to stand in front of people. When it comes to people like this, I feel shy. And I'm always timid to go in front of people, but this internship period has given me the experience.
And you're doing so well. You are
yes.
You're going out of the stereotyped role for women. Okay. Thank you. Yes, A1 will come to you.
My name is Professor Phyllis Foster. In my secondary school, no girl offered science for me. Now, when I decided to offer science, everybody tried to discourage me because it wasn't for girls. So in my class, I was the only female. I had a sound foundation in science. I wanted to be a medical doctor. I couldn't because my biology was weak. Then I decided after some time that I would study home science then. I came for the home science program here and completed. Now the science gave me a strong foundation for the home science. And that is what has carried me through to this time. So that is what it is. Science for everything. For home science, now home economics. Thank you. I have a lot of experiences. If I want to talk, we remain here.
We may have to have another session for that. And this gentleman, the current GRASAC president, I know of A1. I don't know the rest.
All right, thank you, Prof. Starting from think about events in your life, I got to this university in 2014 to read special education, a program I had no idea about. So when I got here, I think during one of the interactions, I asked one of the TAs that I never chose special education, so I don't see why they brought me to this department. And it became an issue, because I wanted to read political science and any other social sciences. So the man told me that no, you have a reason for being here, and SPED is a very nice program. I told him, okay, I'll think about it. So I thought of even leaving the university. So later I went to Professor Hayford now, then he was Dr. Hayford, he was my HOD. Then I told him that I have no idea about this program and I'm not interested. And then he told me, no, I am a doctor, I'm in the department. Because the perception about special education was about people signing and a whole lot. People didn't know so much about special education. And today, I thank God I never changed the program, and I'm doing MPhil in special education and I'm in my final year. And this should tell you I've been a local NUCH president through special education. I contested for national NUCH president. I've been a NASPA president, and today I'm a GRASAC president. I've served on national student committees, about 23 of them. I've went to about 33 conferences and congresses through special education. So it comes to think about the events in your life. I thought there were so much biases about special education and then how they have shaped your values and the worldview. Today I have a lot of students, leaders I have personally groomed all over the country, and that should tell you that it's not about how people say the program or who you are, but it's about the challenge you take it upon yourself to transform the world you find yourself in. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give it up for him.
Okay.
Okay, so before Mr. Doku comes in, you see how our biases were almost drifting us from the real intention that God had for us to pursue. It's always good to be open-minded about everything. And listen to the story our sister, the National Service personnel, told. Look at the biases that we have carried all the way here. Sister, even you can meet professors who will make the same comments, because they have been steamed in this for so long. Even if you try to talk them out of it, I'm sure they will just listen and say, you know, it's very pathetic. So you see, look at how pathetic it is. We need to do something. We need to make a move. And with time, it will work out well.
Yes, I have some childhood biases, and I think it has brought me to this far. sometimes I think of it as being very negative. When I was growing up in Accra, our home was close to Burma camp. So I see military men and women marching up and down. Then I thought of, it would be good for me to become a soldier, because I like the way they wear their uniform, they march up and down. But growing up, I said, oh no, military will not be good for me. Then at a point, I realized that no, perhaps after finishing secondary school, in those days, Form 5, perhaps I will have some opportunity of traveling outside. Because in those days, we were watching a lot of films. Though it was black and white, we were seeing some colored films also. So my perception of going to either the Americas or Europe was very strong. And that was around the time also that the exodus to Nigeria and other things were going on. So at least I can go to Nigeria and have the opportunity of going outside so that I'll be able to make it. But those opportunities and how I planned things will go could not come on. And I've remained in the country from that time until now. And I think, as at now, I've been able to make it without going there. So my childhood perception, well, has gone somewhere, I've gone somewhere. Sometimes, as students, you see something, I want to do this, I want to do this. You try to do it. It will not go well with you. Some of your colleagues will be able to make it. But you must focus ahead, that at least, even either I go or I stay, I'm going to make it. And through the effort that you put in, we can all make it.
Thank you very much. Shall we put our hands together?
So let's be open-minded. God has a plan for us. Let's not close our minds to things. Thank you.
Thank you. Give it up for Prof. Give it up for Prof. We've learned a lot today. She's really inspired us.
Yes, she has. But you didn't tell us your experience, and if there is any experience in your life that has shaped your perception and all that. I have one, but before I share, I think you have to say yours.
Yes.
Now, because today the spotlight is on women.
Yes, I'll share mine. I think that my perception, growing up, I wanted to be a journalist, because I saw Beatrice Edu, I saw Loretta Vanderpoy. These were very good people who were reading very, very well. So I decided I would be a journalist.
And you are doing that right now.
But later on, I realized that there was more that I could do than being a journalist, or I could do journalism as part of what I was doing. I studied English, and then whilst teaching, I got a radio station to be working with alongside. So I realized that I did not just focus, or I did not just stick to that one, but then I still had the opportunity to do that in addition to this. So it widened my scope. It showed me that I could do more, okay, rather than just sit in one corner and say, this is the only thing I'll be. Because sometimes you say, I want to be this, but you never get that opportunity to be this. Does it mean you will sit there and sleep? No. There is a lot more that you can do. And as you do the new things, you get that opportunity, that exposure to do that which you had wanted to do at first. Thank you.
Great. That's a beautiful one. Yes, there's this story. I grew up with my dad a lot, so I stayed with my dad when I was growing up, and I was staying with him with my elder sister, who was about just 4 months older than me. I don't want to explain that magic. So, when you are growing up, my dad was the straight kind of man who would tell you, Kobe, this is your work. When you wake up, you do this, you do this, you do this. Mamiya, this is your work. When you wake up, you do this, you do this, you do this. But my sister was a deviant, not positive deviant, but the other deviant. And she will not do her work because she doesn't want to go to school early. And I was the kind of hard but school boy, even though I was not that smooth, good boy that you would find in your homes. But so I would want to, and my dad had a rule: if all you don't finish your work, you won't go to school. So I'll finish my work and Mamiya will not finish hers. So I adopted a strategy. I'll do mine first and then do hers so that I'll be able to go to school. And when I was doing that, I was thinking that I was just doing it. But now I realize that there are certain things that I got from my childhood that I appreciate a lot, especially if we're a man. Things like cooking, washing, scrubbing, cleaning, it's not for women. It's a necessity, like bathing, ironing, brushing your teeth. All these things are on equal pedestal. You need them to survive in this world. They are not, and they are not used for man. They are social constructions that are constructed by men. So let's construct them and let's do things for ourselves. So when you are there, wives and your children, you will not starve. Hallelujah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for preaching. Thanks for preaching. We will listen to our next speaker.
Yes.
And she's joining us via Zoom. So she's not here in person. We're going to listen to her via Zoom. And she is in the person of
Adeko. She is a gender and inclusive consultant with 17 years experience working to promote women's rights and gender equality in Ghana. Over the years, she has contributed actively towards ending all forms of violence against women and children. She led initiatives and campaigns towards achieving gender equality. Ms. Adeko started her career giving psychosocial support to victims of sexual and domestic violence. She subsequently managed the first shelter for abused women in Ghana when she worked with the ACT Foundation. During her work with government of Ghana in her capacity as the technical advisor on gender, she led the national campaign on ending child marriage in Ghana and was instrumental in the setting up of child marriage unit in the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. She led in the drafting of the National Strategic Framework on ending child marriage in Ghana. She developed a strong interest and expertise in policy work as a means of addressing barriers to women empowerment. Ms. Dinah was part of the process of development of the Ghana National Gender and Legislative Instrument on the Gender Violence Act and securing cabinet approval on affirmative action bill in 2015. In her role as the gender and inclusive consultant, Ms. Diana has done work for a number of organizations, including Plan Ghana International, the World Bank, Star Ghana, and the Parliament of Ghana, among others. She was once the board member of the Ghana Education Trust Fund. Currently, with the TTEL Ghana as a key advisor on gender and inclusion, where she's, among other things, support strengthening the capacity of staff of colleges of education towards the promotion of gender responsiveness and social inclusion within teacher education. She supports colleges in the development of and implementation of sexual harassment policy. Ms. Adeko is a speaker, and she's going to speak to you soon, and a trainer on gender issues, and has presented papers in various national and international platforms, including the United Nations headquarters in New York. Engages in media actively as a means of promoting and addressing issues of concern to women. She's a trained social worker from the University of Ghana and from Washington University in St. Louis, USA. Ladies and gentlemen, Diana is currently struggling on the screen there, and then you would have to lift up your head and then see her as she presents you. On Zoom. Thank you so much. Hello, Diana, can you hear us? Can you hear us, please? Yes.
Are we okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I didn't catch, the sound came back towards the end, so I'm not sure how it's gone. I hope you haven't been waiting for too long.
No, please. We haven't.
Discussions that we've already had our halls of residence. Basically, how sexual harassment affects our life. In the morning, we talked about how claiming our space, claiming our voice, we talked about engaging and finding that space to show our relevance. We also looked at the issues of leadership and how can we deal with stereotypes and biases to free us to excel. One of the issues that would also be important for us to look at and examine is how issues like sexual harassment may affect our ability to thrive, to grow, and to make the impact that we are capable of making. The International Women's Day this year, the theme, as many of you have already heard, is I choose to challenge. And the University of Education Winneba is saying that we choose to challenge sexual harassment. And that is how we are going to wrap up our commemoration of the day. I'll quickly, I think we'll just breeze through. We have less than 30 minutes, and I will try and compress all of the information and still make it relevant. So we all have said enough about International Women's Day. It was actually on the 8th of March, and it's interesting that in Ghana we come very close to celebrating International Women's Day along with our Independence Day. So it kind of gives a lot of euphoria, and I'm sure it's not by coincidence. You've heard about the theme. The hashtag is Choose to Challenge, and it's about what do you choose to challenge. At the United Nations, the issues that are being called out are issues around gender stereotypes and inequality. So I will challenge you. A number of things are being challenged. Everything is being challenged. And today, Prof said he's challenging women. Prof said he's challenging women to step up. We are also saying we are challenging the systems that continue to entrench women and create inequality. We are challenging the systems. We are challenging the systems that make it possible for inequality, sexual harassment, and the rest to happen. I choose to challenge sexual harassment is the call that our university is making, and I think let's all pay attention and join this call. Make your hashtag, post your challenge on social media. Let's show our commitment to get this going. So, as we have said, the next 30 minutes, 20 minutes is about sexual harassment. Let's see. Before we get into what happens in our halls of residence, in our lecture theaters, let's try to understand very briefly what sexual harassment is about. I will usually start by explaining that sexual harassment is a subset of a broader scenario of sexual violence or sexual abuse. It can be used interchangeably, but sexual harassment is one of the numerous examples of sexual violence. You would have other examples like rape, like defilement, sodomy, and the varied forms of abuse on people that come with a sexual nature. So sexual violence is any sexual act or attempt to obtain a sexual act by violence or coercion, acts to traffic a person or acts directed against a person's sexuality, regardless of the relationship to the victim. It does not matter if you are their spouse. It does not matter if you are the relative, you are the caregiver. If you have been betrothed to the person as a future wife or spouse, it does not permit in any way forms of violence. So then what is sexual harassment? Very closely to that is sexual harassment is any behavior that involves unwanted sexual advances, requests, and other verbal or physical conduct. And it's very important to establish that one of the places that sexual harassment is most profound or pervasive is in education institutions and at workplaces. Common ground, but again, women and men around the world have stated that sexual harassment happens almost everywhere. I have had to tell people that it happens even on the trotro. People sit by you and they want an opportunity to violate your body. Trotro mates are picking money from the palm and there's an opportunity to harass you. So it's one of the most pervasive forms of abuses and the most known form of sexual abuse in general. The university, the UEW actually recognizes sexual harassment as a problem and therefore captures it in its policies, and it gives it a very clear definition upon which the institution works to ensure that
abuse does not continue. And the UEW sexual harassment policy defines sexual harassment as comprising unwelcome sexual advance or advances, requests or requests for sexual favors, and verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature when submission to or rejection of such advances, requests, or conduct is made either explicitly or implicitly, a term or condition. And usually people don't make these favors and go away. Most often it is a condition for something. It's either a condition for employment or the basis of interfering with an individual's work performance by creating an intimidating, hostile, humiliating, or sexually offensive work environment. The conduct must be unwelcome, meaning it must be unsolicited and regarded as an offensive or undesirable behavior. In summary, the university is saying that any form of request or advances or conduct that is made towards another person that is unwelcome, and more importantly, when it is also conditioned on something, it even makes it worse. It tells you immediately that there's an issue of power play, power dynamics. Before somebody says, if you give me sex, I'll give you grade, it establishes very clearly that such a person has power over and has the ability to also withhold that grade or give you a lower grade because they have the power and influence to do so. So, but again, sexual harassment does not only happen between people who have power influence. It also happens amongst peers, and peer sexual harassment is also very common, and we'll see a bit of examples around how all of those plays out. So almost everybody can be a victim of sexual harassment, and almost everybody can be a perpetrator of sexual harassment. What are the types of sexual harassment? The university, and I'm using the university's sexual harassment policy to kind of introduce this conversation. The university sexual harassment policy identifies 3 forms of sexual harassment. One of them is quid pro quo. And quid pro quo is a Latin word. It's a Latin word that means in English, this for that. It means give me this in exchange for something, and more, it means give me sex in exchange for something. Often than not, it's usually from people who have influence to actually give you something or withhold something. So they use that leverage to demand for sexual favors. And it's defined as when a student or a staff is promised directly or indirectly academic or career benefits in exchange for sexual favors. And the trick about that is they can actually withhold those things that you duly deserve on grounds that you did not honor their request. Then there's a second type that is also globally recognized. Quid pro quo and hostile environment are actually the 2 broadly, widely known and defined forms of sexual harassment. Hostile environment is creating an unwanted conduct of a sexual nature, which creates a hostile environment, a very unfriendly environment, an environment where anytime you're about to step out, either into your classroom or into your office or to teach, to work, you feel intimidated by the things that are being done around you or at you, such that you are unable to concentrate. And if you had your way, you would not show up at that place. And more so, people also feel very unsafe. Then there's a third form, though not very commonly described, identified as a known form, as a category. The university and many universities in Ghana have boldly identified this as a category of sexual harassment, and it is referred to as retaliation. So this is a situation where when an individual turns down, for example, a sexual favor request, the person is treated in a hostile manner or is victimized. So the long and short of it is that when you have been treated badly, or the environment, working or learning environment is made hostile to you because of 1, you turned down a favor, 2, you reported an act, a sexual misconduct, or 3, you were a witness to a case of sexual abuse. Therefore, the perpetrator or his or her allies turn against you to make life unbearable by way of punishment. So in as much as the particular conduct may not have sexual nature, it can still be categorized as sexual abuse, sexual harassment, because it is linked to an issue of sexual harassment. So these are the three broad categories. Quid pro quo, give me this for that. Give me sex is exchange of something. Hostile environment, making the environment unbearable. And this, you are imagining how unbearable can be, giving people names. We all have been to school from daycare to wherever we are now. We know about name calling of people, and they are known by those names for the rest of their lives, whether they liked it or not. We all call it, and we gleefully make fun of them. Giving images around people, spreading rumors around people, making mockery of their body, particularly in a sexual way. So these are the three broad ways, forms of sexual harassment: quid pro quo, hostile environment, and retaliation. I've already explained quid pro quo. Let's not spend a lot of time. What is hostile environment? Hostile environment examples is sharing or displaying of pornographic materials, the use of vulgar or profane language within a certain space or at people, sexual touching. You are passing by and you just see somebody hits another person's buttocks or brushes their hand over her breast, or make gestures even towards the person, degrading comments about people's bodies. And you see example very quickly, so it makes it clearer. Embarrassing questions: are you a virgin? Have you had sex on the moon before? Would you like to do this kind of things? Things that should be really, really private and between people who are on a certain level. People make light of it, and sexual jokes and prepositions. These are also examples of hostile environments, unnecessary and unwanted names. And please listen, calling people sweetie, baby, dear, honey, my darling, my wife, my husband, all those things can actually make people feel very harassed, make them uncomfortable, and make them despite the space they work or they learn in. But we have taken it we've taken it for granted and normalized it so badly that when people are even uncomfortable about it, they cannot talk because they think it's unusual. Everybody is calling everybody dear and sweetheart. And personally, it's one of the things I just don't like. And I have so not liked it long before I even got to realize that it was offensive. So they justified my feelings. You just don't wake up and call me baby. So that's one of them. Intrusive, sexually explicit questions, asking personal questions about a person's sex life. And I gave an example. Have you had sex before? Have you done this before? Have you done that before? Have you used vibrators before? Are you gay? Are you lesbian? All of those kinds of questions. Spreading rumors about a person's sexuality, sexual activity, or speculations about previous sexual experience. People can get so vile about others. And when, for example, women are rising and people are uncomfortable about their rise and the stereotypes about how we rise, you would realize that sometimes people just throw in rumors about you. You slept your way to the top. You did this. You all remember when Charlotte Osei was appointed as chairperson, one of the biggest rumors was that she got the post because she has slept with the president or the person who appointed her. And if you look at Charlotte Osei's pedigree and you see her CV, there was no doubt that she was capable of playing that role. But what did we hear? And you hear people that she made her money because she's an international prostitute. She sleeps with dogs. She sleeps with cats. She sleeps with fowls. Anything that brings you down and that does not justify your inclusion are possible and can be captured as sexual harassment. Unwanted touching, pinching, massaging, dancing, give me a hug. The big daddies, when our daughters go for internship and all of that, as old as they are, they'll be hovering around, give me a hug, give me a peck. And that is how they start before you realize they are fully violated. And even that kind of request in itself is harassment. It's sexual harassment. Nobody, I'm sure people are saying, Propositions of a sexual nature, including those occurring in situations that begin as reciprocal attractions, but later cease to be mutual. So sometimes people flirt. You like me, I like you. We have this casual relationship going on. And then it begins to graduate to stages that people are not comfortable with. So then they pull back and they want it to cease. And then the other party does not accept to know, capitalizes on it, and then begins to make either blackmail or make other requests or demands on you. And sometimes they force women, especially, into furthering the relationship in ways that they wouldn't want because they have some information that they could use on them. Spying on someone that's engaged in such as undressing, bathing, sexual activity, or any other activity that is considered to be private. And this is also very common. Somebody said this one, there's only in the villages. I said, no, it happens everywhere there's an opportunity for somebody to do so. And spying can also include placing camera where you think people can be at, and then capturing that information to use in ways that are wrong. So it happens everywhere. Okay. So I just wanted to quickly share examples. I was very careful on the examples we shared because we wanted to have our own interesting conversations and not trigger issues from elsewhere. So I said, I saw this research that happened in Kenya, and some of the students gave their experience or how they felt the experience harassment. And I said, let me just throw a bit in to practicalize the conversation. So one of the students said, and this is female, I think the female gender find it hard even to walk into the library because there are some benches that are meant for relaxation outside the library. And the male students have nicknamed that place DSTV, where they sit to watch female students. So it's an issue that female students are actually harassed. So all they do is to sit there and watch. And that is also, all of us here have been to educate, have been in school before, and you know that is where sometimes the cat calls begin, the whistling begins, and the name calling begins. I was in University of Ghana, and I was in the Volta Hall. And for example, if you went to Commonwealth Hall back then, ordinarily, walking through Vanda City, you could be harassed just by name calling and all of that. But if you wore red, it was like spelling doom for yourself. Koko or Koko. And they will not only hound after you and scream and all of that. Some people actually follow and touch and fondle girls. And so these, you would be very bold to want to show up in Commonwealth Hall. So at the time we were in the university, I don't know what it is like now, it's been almost 20 years. At the time we were in the university, it was not easy for girls to up and go to Commonwealth Hall easily. You either needed an escort or you sit your somewhere and dream, because you could easily come out harassed. A girl came back from Commonwealth Hall wearing a white blouse, and her white blouse was dirty around the breast cap because something happened and the boys just decided to pounce and fondle her through it all. And that is the lived experience of a colleague. There's another person's experience from the Kenya case. It says, this guy looks at you like, give me something. Sexual favors, basically. She thinks it's unfair. It's not fair for the ladies. There's that unfairness for the ladies. Another said, I cannot go jogging every day in the field. You need to be careful about what time you are going there. Like me, I have an experience with this road. So she was referring to a particular road or street in her school. I cannot use this road past 5:30. I can never. Yes, I had an experience. I wasn't raped. I almost got killed. And a lot of girls were being raped on that street. One person says to be stared at. So she was being asked about swimming and whether she can easily go for swimming. And she said to be stared at. I hear most men go there just to look at your thighs. Later, you hear stories from class that discourages people from going there because of the fear of being stared at. So swimming that people do as a sport or as an exercise Women are not free to do so because of the outfits that they wear or because of the nature that the water cleanses whatever you wear to your body. Some people make it their own sport, not to swim, but to sit at the pool and watch women swimming and passing commentaries. Many of us don't understand some of the limitations we feel in this life and our inability as women to step out. Somebody will say they've set up this university has built a powerful swimming pool for us to sport and exercise, but the women are not bold enough. Nobody is sucking the women from the pool. And the women are sitting quietly, they are not saying anything, but they are not going there because they don't want to be harassed. Some people even take pictures of people's body sizes, either to shame them or to have their fun with. So no. The pool is there. It's very beautiful. We can go and sit by it and drink a bottle of beer, but we are not going there to swim because of these limitations. But you realize that it will be very difficult for such a conversation to even show up anywhere, or for it to even be identified as some form of harassment, because really nobody has even thought about it. Watching women's body there, is it not a stress release or releasing of tension? How can that be a problem? So if people's mindsets are like this, it's very difficult to identify the issue. I just wanted to quickly also share with you some of the experiences shared to me by my personal friends, some of my personal friends. One person said, I detested going for a particular lecture because I had some male course mates who will always pass comments about my breast size. They referred to it as massive attack. Sometimes they will say melon region. At that time, I already had low self-esteem because I felt my breasts were too large. So their comments made me feel even worse. However, they made it look like a joke and laughed about it. When I mentioned it to my friend, she said, come on, that is a huge compliment. Do you know how many girls would kill to be in your shoes? And her experience was that this made her feel worse about it and never wanted to run into those guys ever again. It made the university campus so small for her. And so these were her classmates. If this was starting from level 100 or 200, you can imagine how she felt suppressed and intimidated throughout on the campus. And anytime she had to step out, she would dread that if she ran into them, they will start the name calling and she'll be miserable. But reflect upon it as you listen to me. Think and wonder, would you have thought that this was a big deal? Once I was in Makola and I was pregnant, and I walked past a certain guy. I think he was selling suitcases, and I was just trying to get stuff and go home. And the comment the guy passed, no for pani. And to think about my size and for him to pass such a comment, I looked back again. When I turned to look whether it was actually me he was referring to, and then he started whistling and making cat calls at me. I felt so angry. I felt confused. I felt confused because I thought somebody needed to take disciplinary action against him. But Makola suitcase seller, who was taking disciplinary action against him? Who would I go and report to? I wanted to hurry up and get out of the traffic. But who was I going to report to? This is how harassed we feel every day. So if for a one case experience, I felt so intimidated and confused and angry, can you imagine what a young girl will go through for 3 or 4 years in the university to put up with people who will make it a hobby to call her names because they thought she was attractive or she was unattractive? Many of us would think it's a joke, but it is not a joke. Thankfully, the university recognizes such a behavior as unacceptable and gives us the opportunity to report and to get it addressed. Maybe if it was today, she would easily have gone to a sexual harassment committee and said, this is my experience, I want it stopped. And they would have invited them and put a stop to it. But then we had normalized this thing so well that she couldn't get it addressed. Another person said, I stopped going for tutorials when my TA told me that he had inquired from my friends about me, and they told him that I never did boys in secondary school. That I was probably a virgin, so he was interested in me. He said, you are my type, exactly the type of girl I am looking for. I will make you happy. I never went for tutorials again, and I regret taking that course. When institutions like the university introduced affirmative action, like they said concession, where they stepped down the pass mark or admission, what is it called, the cutoff point for girls, a lot of people said that measure was introduced because the institutions knew that girls were not intelligent enough. And I said the institution knew that girls were very intelligent, to the extent that somebody who got aggregate 17 in secondary school was as a girl who got aggregate 17 in secondary school was as intelligent as a boy who got aggregate 15, because the challenges that girls face can be so intimidating that they will have to sacrifice their learning hours to make up for their safety. So if this girl never went again for tutorials, but her male colleagues could go for tutorials, what would be her ultimate performance? And who was there to report to at the time? When we were in the university, we were not told about any sexual harassment policy in our orientation. And that is how it was till we left. We had no idea there was anything like that. Fortunately, you have, and your institution is making frantic efforts. I know the Gender Mainstreaming Directorate, to get the information disseminated. You have a very well-written, beautiful sexual harassment policy. Whilst the mainstreaming secretary, the directorate is trying to disseminate information, I will encourage all of you to go online, take a look at the policy and know what your rights are so that you protect it. And we kill sexual harassment. Choose to challenge sexual harassment and take that bold step. Do not be silent, and then allow that culture to grow. One other friend said, I was very uncomfortable when my lecturer told me that I was his special student because I had the same name as his mom. He would ask about me anytime he entered the lecture hall, and everyone would be cheering and laughing. I always felt like the ground should swallow me. I was not sure whether to go to class early or to wait for lessons to begin before I show up. The worst happened when he invited me to his office for a discussion, only to ask for sexual favors. So you see it, my wife, one of the reasons why we discourage my wife, personally, I don't like anybody referring to my children, my wife, and my husband. It is not an acceptable language. You look like my wife, you sound like my wife, you look like my husband. They are all journey towards some form of harassment. But even if nothing follows, that sheer nature of singling somebody out and making her the subject of attention in the class made her so uncomfortable. And we all know that she would miss lectures from time to time when she was not in her good mood, when she was in her period and all of that. She would just say, you know what, I'm cutting this off, I'm not going. Then let's talk about, so many of those would fit more under hostile environment. So when we talk about an environment is hostile, you want to go to the library. The boys have gathered there and they are watching you. And I remember one of my teachers in secondary school told me that they had a place where they sat. And when they were males. So when girls were passing, they'll start shouting, woso, 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 to whom does it belong? And so they were ranting this song at the movement of their legs and their buttocks. So when they move their feet, woso, woso. And this is where you are supposed to pass and go to a library or to a lecture. And some guys have come to there and they are screaming, woso, woso, to whom does it belong? Would you look forward to passing there and going anywhere again? Many of these things were accepted. It was taken, it's a joke, they're playing, but when people already having issues with their bodies and their personalities, that does not help, it kills. And when people are not performing well in school, we wonder why, because they have everything, but actually they have nothing. So when we talk about retaliation, this is basically, as I explained in the beginning, if somebody makes a report, somebody turns down a request or a request or advances, somebody testifies against another, there could be all forms of retaliation. It could manifest in low score, poor evaluations, poor examination scores, poor assessment. It could manifest in failure to hire or promote a person. It could come in the form of wrongful transfers. They could isolate you and exclude you in the office or in the room. I mean, anything that could show you pepe for taking that action. And sometimes it's not directly from the person, but it could also be from allies of the person. And when they say birds of the same feather flock together, that ally may also necessarily have been abusing somebody somewhere as well. In summary, what are the signs that you see to know that you are being harassed? One of them is you feel uncomfortable about an act that is sexual in nature. You don't like the special handshakes and the hugs and the massage of they sweep their hands around or touch your cheek or all of those. You are experiencing unwanted physical contact. You know, people will sit by you and you're having a conversation, and every word that comes out of their mouth, they're either pinching your thigh, rubbing their hands on your thigh, touching you. They will laugh and come and lie on your chest. Meanwhile, you don't even know what is funny to start with. But any opportunity for them to get into physical contact, they will do. And when saying no has no impact, they keep repeating the same behavior. And that is why the university has, one, a policy to define what sexual harassment is. And two, it has a system for reporting formally and informally for issues to be addressed. Some of the reports, when they are made, what happens is the alleged perpetrator is invited and told that his or her conduct is an unacceptable behavior. The victim finds it offensive and he should stop or she should stop. When your no is having no impact, do not suffer in silence. Make a report and let there be an action. You were asked to ask for a sexual favor, and that we've talked about it under quid pro quo. You feel bullied, and that is when you begin to connect this to sexual, to hostile environments. They're doing things to intimidate you, to punish you, to make you feel like you made a mistake by not accepting or by speaking up. Challenge that. You can still report bullying. And if it is established that a particular bullying pattern is linked to sexual harassment, the sanctions under sexual harassment will and should apply. When you are being subjected to jokes or images of a sexual nature, and I've given examples sometimes on our phones or through social media, phone calls, sometimes they've not said anything. On Valentine's Day, if many of you may recall, I'm a female, so let me speak for myself. You notice that I received all kind of funny, happy Valentine images, weird ones, unacceptable ones, and all of that. It is part, it can be categorized under sexual harassment. And so you should not be silent. Let us quickly tell people that I don't like this content. I have had occasion to tell people, I really don't like this content. I don't appreciate you sending me this content. And I have been fortunate to have it ceased almost immediately. And if you are not respecting yourself enough, thank God for blocking features. Some of these people block them. But sometimes those are evidence that you also use to make a formal report. Because if the person is a person of power and you block them, and that ends your coursework or something, then there should be a way to report on that. You are not the only victim. So when you hear a number of people talking about, they don't think you are imagining. Understand that this is a harasser who has a pattern of behavior that needs to be confronted by the system that has been set up to respond to this issue. And when you become a victim of revenge, I talk about sexual retaliation as a form of abuse, and you feel unsafe. Who is a perpetrator? I've said it. A male can be a perpetrator and a female can be a perpetrator. Anybody can be a person with different abilities, able-bodied, young person, old person, great professors, baby professor, anybody can be a harasser. And statistics, however, shows, and yesterday I was reading another research that said a research was done, I didn't cite it here, so I don't remember the details, but 69% of women said they were sexually harassed in this tertiary institution versus 31% of men who said they were sexually harassed. So the people who were harassing 69% of women were actually more men. So statistics and evidence is showing that more men harass women than women harass men, but both parties can harass. And who can be a victim? The same analysis apply. So men too can be victims of sexual harassment. Statistics is showing that about 30 to 31% of victims of sexual harassment are males, whereas 69 to 70% are females. I wanted to talk about this, but I will breeze through. I see our time is far gone. Virtual sexual harassment, and this came up because we've always had virtual learning, we've always had distant learning, but now due to the current global crisis with COVID, we've moved a lot into virtual spaces to learn, and we are using unorthodox spaces, even like WhatsApp, Telegram, and all of those to learn. And so whilst teaching and learning goes on in those spaces, we have also been compelled to share our private information details so people have easy access to each other's numbers. If you're in a WhatsApp group, all you need is to go to the contact list and click on somebody, you can start messaging them. Students have lecturers' numbers, lecturers have students' numbers. So all the formal professional systems that we had in place, we had to keep some level of distance. We have breached them for good reasons. So whilst we celebrate the good with virtual learning, we are also recognizing that sexual harassment could scale up into virtual spaces, and don't take it for granted. And when you are having even group discussions, the language that is used in the group, in the group whilst you are learning, can be intimidating to people. People may fail to show up for class because the comments, when you make a post, people are quick to blow kisses, and you start wondering, hey, what is going on in his or her head? Why these plenty cases and this plenty red, blue, yellow, black hat that you have posted on one comment that I made and all of that? We've gotten quite carried away, and a number of things are happening in those spaces too. People are sending people messages at midnight, and then the one that is even annoying for a lot of people is when they go and take your DP, then they'll zoom it, then they'll screenshot the zoom and send it back to you and ask, is that your wife? Or they'll ask you, is that your boy? And they want to have conversations about that and then go to unacceptable grounds. So there's a whole issue around sexual harassment, but the good thing is the institutions have identified that sexual harassment will happen virtually. So they have opened the app that when a report is made, they would investigate accordingly, and then they can take actions. One thing that can be noticed about virtual sexual harassment is that sometimes it can be done by a lot more people. So an information comes to you about somebody, and before you say Jack, everybody's sharing it, it's gone viral, it's a nude video, it's a Photoshop picture, it's something that will humiliate the other party, particularly about their sexuality. You realize that everybody is sharing it. So if the school is investigating this, they may go after the originator. A lot of other the right standards is or does when it comes to complaint, and it says that. And so the policy, when you take the policy, it talks about what defines sexual harassment. They say my internet is unstable. Can you still hear me, or I am off? Okay, so the policy talks about the definition. It talks about what comprises. It gives some examples, and then it goes on to talk about how to address sexual harassment, more like the procedure. So one is it talks about the rights of the complainant, and when they talk about the rights of the complainant, automatically they're talking about the rights you have to complain. So any member of the university community who believes that he or she has been a victim of sexual harassment in violation of this policy is entitled to pursue the matter and utilize the procedures described under this policy for redress. And then the complainant shall not be reprimanded, retaliated against, or discriminated against in any way for initiating an inquiry or complaint in good faith. Right of the respondent. The person against whom a complaint is lodged shall be presumed innocent of that charge unless and until there's a final finding of culpability by the committee or stipulated admission to the charge by the person. The person or the establishes that the person is guilty, then the person is Hello, can you hear me now? Hello, am I back on? Okay, you can hear me. Right, so I had just rounded up. I was talking about the duty to cooperate when a case of sexual harassment is reported and the committee invites you to meet the committee. You cannot give excuses or apologize. You have to cooperate. And in many institutions, your failure to cooperate can be can call for sanctions. So that is brings us to the end of my presentation. I know we have like 2 minutes left, and I'll call for questions if there are any or comments. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Adiko. Thank you for your presentation. At least it has given us some knowledge. And then for the first time, I think I've heard what is called virtual sexual harassment. I'll try to investigate that and then maybe use it for research. But there is, I'm into media, I'm a staff here, but there is an advert which has been running for some time. And I feel very, very uncomfortable about it, especially on TV. And a certain name is used. I know at least the name that is used. I've seen that person, a person by that name, years ago. I think around 1993 or so, many years ago. And for almost a year or so now, I've been looking forward to seeing somebody, maybe a gender activist. A gender activist speaking against it, but yet nobody. It's about a mosquito coil advert where a curvy woman is referred to as Badamushi. I don't know, we can put it in the category of being stereotyped or being biased against a woman or calling women by certain names. I feel very, very uncomfortable about it.
So we can't hear. Ephraim, can you kindly unmute? Your source is where we get information from. Can you kindly unmute so we can hear? Is anything going on? Or we have closed? No, we are.
But the woman
There's a terrible feedback, Ephraim. Who else can help us? There's a terrible feedback.
And from all the educations and all the presentations, you see that something needs to be done. So I'm calling on all of us, especially women activists, to rise against it. I know Province is a member of the National Media Commission. I think he has said that. And there are other high-ranking people who can speak against it. So that at least that portion of the advert is removed, or the advert is cancelled at all. So that the new advert for that period to come. So that we will look at our women the way they are and their achievements, and not by their own shapes and sizes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nico, would you like to react to that question, please? He's talking about a television advert where a woman Madam, you are echoing. It's echoing, so I couldn't pick it. I only heard about television adverts. What about it? Could you please unmute Ms. Adiko? Yes.
Yes, it was about, he was commenting on a television advert that has been showing for some time now, and apparently the advert speaks more on the woman's body rather than the other positive aspects, and he is quite not happy with regards to how women are stereotyped in that advert.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. If I picked what you said, he said it's about an advert that emphasizes more about woman's body than it does about the products they probably are advertising. It's one of the big sources. Media is one of the big sources where issues around stereotypes. Hey, from please, if you mute, it's echoing for us on Zoom.
Okay.
So, media and adverts, movies are one of the channels through which stereotypes about people, especially women, are transmitted, are disseminated, people are socialized through this platform. So you'll notice that even when people are selling cars, they'll put along the car a woman's body. And I've always cited an example. Once in Ghana, there was a car advert where the headlights of the car are the eyes of the woman. And then it went on and on like that. People are selling phones, and they are saying the phone is as sleek as a woman. Everything, we call it sex objectification of women. So women have been portrayed repeatedly as sex objects, and therefore there's that message that they can be played with. So you are totally spot on about how the media portrays women and how women are portrayed in adverts. Take music videos, for example, as well. You'll notice that the way women dance, are portrayed to dance in these videos, communicate a certain message. Eventually, the videos we used to see in the late 90s up to now has gradually also become a style as well. So there's so much there about how we portray women, even in our marketing processes.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Diana Adiko, for that wonderful presentation. It's been very insightful and educative, informative as well. Thank you so much. We are glad to have you here. And at this point, we, because of time, would want to say thank you to end your session. Thank you so much. You can hear. Okay, and I wish I can just do the sign so that you can get me. Okay, let's give it up for Miss Diana Adeko. That was an insightful presentation by all standard and very, very educative. The last bit is what even is more fascinating, the commodification of the woman body, more or less trying to objectify it and make it seem like something that we can buy with our purchasing power. That's money. And that's something that we need to frown against and then educate people, especially around us, about. Don't you think so?
Yes. We are gradually rounding up, and we'll call on Ms. Ramat Watara to come and give us the vote of thanks.
Okay, give it up for Ms. Watara as she comes to the auditorium. No, let's give it up for her.
Let's give it up for her. She is the Nooks Women's Commissioner.
The Nooks Women Commissioner for University of Education, Winneba. Thank you so much.
First of all, we are going to give thanks to the Almighty for bringing this program to a successful end. Standing on existing protocols, ladies and gentlemen, all too soon we have come to a successful end of a very important program. I want to say a very big thanks to the representative of the Vice Chancellor in the person of Professor Emmanuel Obed Akwa, the Director of Quality Assurance, for holding the fort so well. He's done an excellent job and we appreciate his support. He is not here with us, but I know he will still get this message. We would also want to express appreciation to the keynote speaker, Professor Andy Ofori-Brinkran, our Pro-Vice Chancellor, for this noble institution. For the insightful presentation, to Professor Ruby Hansen, we can only say we are much grateful for her outstanding contribution towards women's development and serving as a role model to many women in UEW and beyond. Madam Diana Adeko of TTEL, who is not here with us, but we are going to say she has really given us a wonderful presentation, and all we can say is a very big thanks to her. To the chaplain, we say thanks for coming. To the Municipal Director for Education, thank you very much. Mrs. Mabel Judith and her team, we say we are very grateful for your presence. And to the organizers of this well-thought-out event, the Gender Directorate, Ms. Eva Annan, the GRASAC, and the SRC, we say a very big thanks for putting this beautiful piece together. I want to say a very big thanks to the School of Creative Art for this wonderful performance, and to our beautiful audience,